MKUltra, the CIS mind control experiments. Imagine waking up in a hospital, not knowing how you got there. Your body responds to commands you didn't give, and your mind no longer feels like your own. This isn't science fiction. This really happened to hundreds of people during one of the most secretive and dark projects in United States history. We're talking about MKUltra, the CIA's mind control experiment, and this is just the beginning. It all began at the start of the Cold War, when the CIA believed that the Soviet Union had already developed techniques to control the human mind. Afraid of falling behind, the United States launched Project MKUltra in the 1950s. Its goal, to find a way to manipulate human behavior using drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and other extreme methods. The project was overseen by Sidney Gottlieb, a CIA chemist, who became known as the agency's Black Sorcerer. He operated with nearly total freedom, no supervision, and an unlimited budget. MKUltra quickly turned into a network of more than 150 sub-projects, spread across universities, hospitals, prisons, and psychiatric institutions. And no one knew what was happening. Not even many of the scientists involved knew they were working with the CIA. The victims, mostly ordinary people, psychiatric patients, prisoners, and even citizens who were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. But why would anyone subject themselves to this? The truth is, most of MKUltra's victims didn't even know they were participating in an experiment. One of the most shocking cases was that of Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron, a renowned Canadian psychiatrist who, under CIA contract, conducted brutal experiments at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. His patients sought help for depression, anxiety, and other common disorders. But what they received was a nightmare. Cameron used a method called Declassified, in which he completely erased the patient's personality through electroshock, high doses of LSD, and prolonged isolation. Then, he tried to reprogram them with recorded messages, played thousands of times. These people lost their memories, their identities, and in many cases, never returned to a normal life. They were destroyed in the name of science and fear. But then, everything started to go wrong. The experiments began to spiral out of control. Some patients entered permanent psychotic states, others attempted suicide, and many died. In 1953, a CIA employee, Frank Olson, was dosed with LSD without his knowledge. Days later, he fell from the 13th floor of a hotel in New York. Officially, it was ruled a suicide. But decades later, evidence emerged suggesting he had been murdered to silence what he knew. You won't believe what they were willing to do to keep this secret. Many people believe MKUltra was a necessary project, a lesser evil during a time of war and paranoia. That without it, the United States might have been vulnerable to Soviet manipulation. But the truth is, most of the scientists involved never achieved reliable results. The methods used were unethical, cruel, and lacked solid scientific foundation. While some claimed it was scientific progress, others denounced the abuse. And when documents began to be destroyed in the 1970s, it became clear that something much darker was behind it all. A desperate attempt to erase the tracks of one of the greatest scientific crimes in modern history. This was when everything nearly came to light. In 1975, the US Congress launched investigations through the Church Committee, led by Senator Frank Church. From there, a flood of documents revealed that the CIA had tested LSD on soldiers, university students, and even ordinary citizens, without any consent. But this detail saved everything. Although most files had been destroyed, a set of financial documents was forgotten, allowing investigators to trace payments and experiment locations. Thanks to that, the world caught a glimpse of the true extent of The project was officially shut down in 1973, but the damage remained. Victims like those at the Allen Memorial Institute fought for decades to receive compensation. Some succeeded, others died waiting for justice. The scars of MKUltra remain in books, films, conspiracy theories, and above all, in the memories of those who survived. This changed these people's lives forever, and reminds us of a dark fact. When fear aligns with power, even science can become a weapon. If you found this disturbing, wait until you hear what the CIA did with remote viewing and psychic espionage experiments. You won't believe the secrets the government hid for decades. Even after the official end of MKUltra, the echoes of the project continued to resonate. Anonymous victims began to report their experiences. Many of the accounts included forced hypnosis sessions, sensory deprivation in isolation tanks, long periods without human contact, and repetitive experiences that led to mental confusion and loss of identity. At Atascadero State Hospital in California, Prisoners were used as test subjects. Many reported injections with substances that left them in altered states of consciousness, followed by intense interrogations. In Kentucky, the Lexington Rehabilitation Center became the site of experiments where drug addicts were given doses of LSD in exchange for more heroin. It was cruel and inhuman manipulation. There was also Subproject 130, which involved the use of drugs for interrogation and conditioning of American soldiers. Many of these soldiers, upon returning home, suffered from severe psychological disorders, not knowing they had been part of an experiment. The cultural impact of MKUltra is immense. Films like The Manchurian Candidate, The Cabin in the Woods, and series like Stranger Things were inspired directly or indirectly by reports about the project. The character 11, for example, is the product of experiments similar to those conducted by the CIA on children in secret laboratories. In music, artists like Frank Zappa, Jim Morrison, and even Kurt Cobain have been linked to theories suggesting that programs similar to MKUltra influenced their careers or behaviors. Although these theories often lack proof, the fact is that distrust in the American government grew drastically after the revelations about the project. If MKUltra was possible and remained hidden for so long, what else could be happening behind the scenes of power? Operation Midnight Climax, for example, was one of the strangest subprojects. CIA agents set up fake brothels to lure targets, who were then drugged with LSD while being observed behind one-way mirrors. All of this to test mind control and forced confession methods. There are also reports of experiments on orphan children, homeless people, and vulnerable populations in allied countries. Many of these accounts were never fully investigated. The CIA's absolute secrecy, combined with the destruction of files, prevents us from knowing the exact number of victims. In public hearings in the 1970s, victims like Claudia Mullen and others testified about the abuse. Their stories shocked the world. Mullen claimed she was abused since childhood in CIA experiments, subjected to brainwashing and mental programming, and she was not the only one. Today, survivors and families still demand justice. Movements like the Mind Control Survivors Network bring together victims and share stories, trying to pressure the US government to acknowledge the full extent of the crimes. MKUltra teaches us a valuable lesson. When science becomes subservient to fear and power, the results can be devastating. Behind technical terms like behavioral control and enhanced interrogation, there was pain, the destruction of lives, and brutal violations of human rights. That's why it's essential to question, investigate, and keep the memory of these victims alive, so history doesn't repeat itself, and so that science is never again used as an instrument of torture. And if you thought this was disturbing, wait until you learn about Project Stargate, where the US tried to use psychics for international espionage. This story is just as unbelievable as it is true.